Talk on U.S. misguided and short-sighted foreign policy on the Horn of African issues, particularly on the issues that relate to an Oromo struggle. To just go through a brief history of United States contact with Africa, I will just go through this material, which is here in the form of PowerPoint. United States contact with Africa was established in 1803. That was the first war United States involved with Africa. It's called the War of Barbary. It's in the country of present-day Libya against the Libyan pirates. And then the United States imposed a treaty of commerce and amity, which was actually, they vanquished them, and kind of a capitulation treaty in which the Barbary people submitted for the will of the dominant United States. That was the first United States naval war, and it gave rise to the development of the United States Navy, actually. So, United States joined a fight of transatlantic slave trade with Great Britain in 1807. And then in 1847, the United States established a country called Liberia for liberated slaves. And the United States foreign policy since then was very much dominated by tendency of isolationism, so there was not much contact with Africa. But there was a change after that, because United States foreign policy was very much shaped by Britain's foreign policy toward Africa, which was actually informed by imperialism and also racism. So United States foreign policy was exactly, if not exactly, very much similar to the policies of the United States, because there was no Department of Africa. So United States foreign policy was shaped after the foreign policy of Great Britain, which approached Africa with a mentality of exploitation, imperialism, and civilization mission. So when the United States signed a treaty with Haile Molekos, the king of Shawa, in 1841, who was the father of Midyear, United States also dispatched a Swiss guy called Emmanuel Weiss to Red Sea and Ethiopia to explore business opportunities with Ethiopia, and then seek a treaty which is of the level of Great Britain with Ethiopia. But he was not very much impressed with the development he saw in Ethiopia, so he just said, oh, this is not a wise plan to just go ahead with. So United States canceled that plan. And then the second contact came with Ethiopia was this guy called Henry Morton Stanley. He was a reporter for New York Herald during the Napier conquest of the Battle of Magdala. So he came there and he just reported so many atrocities committed by Todros, how violent he was, how he just suppressed Oromo people, their struggles. He wrote a lot about the struggles of Warketu and Kiwan Mastawat, and he reported a lot of good stuff. I mean, like the operation, the exploitation, and the plundering of the Oromo people, especially how Wallo was plagued. But at the same time, he maintains similar sort of narrative, which was actually the Abyssinians are superior to the Wallos. These are Mohammedans, Muslims, violent, they want to destroy a Christian nation, and stuff like that. But still, there are so many good stuff in his book, which was actually called the British Two Patterns in Africa, which was Magdala and Kumasi. That is the title of the book. And then the first interest from the side of Ethiopia was developed to have a diplomatic contact with USA during the era of Johannes. I actually just wrote it like 1878, but it was supposed to be 1872. Johannes asked Great Britain to defeat Wallo because there was this religious war. Dr. Muhammad has written a lot on that issue. So he said, like, I'm just waging a war against this people called the Galas of Wollo, who are just trying to defeat the Christian nation. So I wanted to get support to abolish slavery and defeat Mohammedanism. That is what it says. And the letter was drafted by this British general called General Jesse Kirkham. He was actually the guy who just played a crucial role in the defeat of Tekle Gorgis, who was actually a guy from Zagwe tribe, from the Agio, who just claimed the imperial throne after the days of Theodorus in 1968 at the Battle of Magdala. So they defeated him, and he tried to bridge a relationship between Johannes and Ethiopia so that the Christian Ethiopia would be assisted against infidels, which are Muslims, and also against the pagans, which are Galas or Oromos. But the United States were not that much interested in having a relationship with Ethiopia, but there were some Christian missionaries willing to come. But Johannes was not interested with Christianization or converting his people into Protestantism, so he refused their assistance. And then after came Adwa and U.S.-Spanish War. After U.S.-Spanish War, America became like a global power. She became like imperial democracy because America occupied countries like Philippines, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, you know, and Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Mariana Islands, and so many smaller Pacific islands. And when the United States became a global power, they started to explore a market in Africa. So the last part for United States market in Africa was Congo trade, actually. It used to be called like the Congo Free State. And the Congo Free State was taken by King Leopold of Belgium. So by default, Abyssinia and Liberia were the two options where United States can just go and trade with Africa. And Liberia was founded by United States, so Ethiopia was the option. So when they heard about the Battle of Adwa, they said that Ethiopia has passed the acid test for civilization because they defeated, number one, barbarians, which are actually just the Oromos and the Somalis and the others and all other people, the Afar, sorry. And the other aspect is they said they have demonstrated their civilization in a good way since they defeated like their white counterparts, which is Italians. So basically, for Americans, the Battle of Adwa was not a battle of black people against the white. It was the white Africans fighting the white Europeans because Ethiopians are assumed to be white because they are of type of King Solomon race. And they are just the sons of kings of Sheba. So they said, Ethiopians are very much superior to the Negro people. We have to just help them. And Menelik became a Bismarck of Africa, and Ethiopia became a Japan of Africa. If you know history, Japan defeated Russia in 1805 during the Russian-Japan War. And Ethiopia became the Switzerland of Africa because she's just mountainous, unique, populated by the white race. And that was the narrative, the talk. And then there was this guy called Robert Pitt Skinner. He was a United States diplomat based in Marseille, France, who took the initiative of establishing. He didn't. There was another guy called an African American guy, Henry William Ellis, who was a Pan-Africanist, very much excited at the Battle of Adwa, who went to Ethiopia to establish a diplomatic relationship to forge a link between the United States of America and the United States of Abyssinia, they said, to make black people civilized. He was a very much successful business guy, an African American from Texas. And he was very much Republican leaning. By then, Republicans were very much friendly with the black people. So he went there, and he was rebuffed by Menelik because Menelik feels that he was Caucasian. He was rejected by the Menelik. And when he came to the State Department and suggested for the plan, the State Department said, oh, Ethiopians are not black. There should be a white diplomat going to Ethiopia. I just quote what they said. Abyssinian type contains no Negro blood, whatever. None of the Negro qualities. Ethiopia is quite unlike a Negro. The only thing the same with the blacks is geography, to say. And then by default, this Skinner, a guy from Marseille, became, he was chosen to go and negotiate a diplomatic treaty with Ethiopia. So he was called from Marseille to have a discussion with the President of the United States of America at the time, who was Theodore Roosevelt. And Roosevelt was very much excited about having a relationship with Ethiopia because Ethiopia was such an exciting country, such a romantic, exotic nation, because he has got ideas about Ethiopia from Bible and from the fables like Prester John. So he just invited this Skinner into the White House and they have a discussion about Ethiopia. And this is what the president said, I will quote. "I wished very much I could go myself, for there were lions and elephants. No, the Ethiopians were not Negroes at all, but of a Semitic stocks and proud of their ancestry," the president said. "Life there must be something similar to the life in the time of Christ. How interesting to be able to study an early Christian culture. Study an early Christian culture. The army and the navy have to supply everything needed for the comfort and convenience of the mission. Undoubtedly, we should be able to get a proper treaty, but there were other things. It was a dry and partly desertic country, I mean like desert. And we must look for a series of useful unknown plants and great zebras." That was President Roosevelt, who was actually very much hunting, very much passionate about hunting. Perhaps, you know, like teddy bear, which is named after him. Yeah. So that was a narrative, and this guy, he went to Ethiopia in 1903, and the first treaty was signed. And he was very much excited about the treaty because he said, like, he's going to see the Christian civilization living, the land in which Jesus was lived. So when he reached Ethiopia, this is how he described it. I mean, like, the situation, he said, Menelik army was just like the one who accompanied the Queen of Sheba to Jerusalem, you know, that way. And he said, he just described his welcoming ceremony just like the fall of Jericho. You know, the fall of Jericho from the Bible. And he described Ethiopian civilization as a civilization in which Christ himself lived. And President Roosevelt was very much excited, and he said, "Oh, Ethiopia is just like this, a Christian civilization. We know in the King chapters of the Bible, Ethiopia is an empire and must remain so." He said that. And Skinner was very much excited about the story of the Queen of Sheba, and they said, "Oh, the story of Queen of Sheba in Solomon is true, and no historian will come along and demolish it with a proof of incontestable authenticity." He liked it. I mean, like this force to stay the way it is. So this was the narrative, and when he just saw Skinner left from Marseille to Rome, Naples, and then to Beirut, from Djibouti, the Czech train to Drodawa, there was a French train till then, and then from there by mules and the caravans of camels and mules and donkey from Drodawa to Imperial. So he saw two types of races on his way. And one is the civilized race. He called the Abyssinian race is very much civilized. They are vastly superior to any race in Ethiopia, and they are in a best state. They are orderly, peaceful personage, and a professional warrior. This is the way he described it, the Abyssinian race. And he just saw another race from Djibouti to Drodawa, and actually to the highland of Shawa, to Finland itself. And he said these are a group of savage race. And the savage race were Oromo, Somalis, and Afars. So these are the three races which are different from the Abyssinian race. You know, he has never been to South Omo. So he just put a hierarchy and said Abyssinians are very much civilized, Oromos are closer to civilization, Somali are next, and he said like the Afars are the worst of all because they're very of dark complexion. This is what he wrote. And then he wrote about Abyssinia in this way. Okay. So he described the Oromos and other savage races in this way. They are barbarous, constantly warring each other, and knew no higher law except that of force. So he said whatever the Milik did was good. And the reason for United States to establish contact with Ethiopia was the savage race was conquered and Ethiopia can develop because they were the one who arrested the development of Ethiopia and responsible for her backwardness. He said the savage tribes have been brought under subjugation. Regular trade routes have been opened and the isolation of the past is over. So this is Menelik receiving Skinner, the one he described like the fall of Jericho. And this one is Commissioner Skinner. And this one is it's actually not very much visible, the line, the symbol of the authority of Menelik given to them. And actually this is a line from Borana. So, yeah. So this was the narrative, and he just described Ethiopians. Ethiopia is quite like Negro, he said. The only thing they share with black is geography. I just said that. And though Ethiopia borders Kenya, this is what he said, it seems farther away from Kenya seems farther away from Ethiopia than Saskatchewan. You know, it's a part of Canada, Saskatchewan. Abyssinians are technology friendly, and Menelik is Japanizer, the sons of Islam, considers technology a beast. So this is a biases and prejudices which cripples the struggles of other groups in Ethiopia because America's understanding of Ethiopia is very much corrupted. It's wrong. This is a kind of narrative that the Oromo struggle used to fight. Because by the time we went, Ethiopia was not as such a Semitic race. The vast majority of the conquered people are not of Semitic stock. The Kushites, the Nilotes, and the Omotic people constitute like the absolute majority of that country, which is more than actually 80% at the time. And so this is a kind of a narrative we need to fight. And this is a narrative which influenced the policy of the United States till the transition time when the United States diplomats said to an Oromos, Oromo is an equivalent of American niggers. This is what the diplomats said. And the manifestation of this, the policy ramification of this narrative was out of the 7,000 American military personnel. And actually, there were 7,000 American employees, and out of that, 300, 500 was the military personnel. In 1964. And out of that, there was less than 100 African Americans because they said Ethiopians hate the black people because they consider themselves white and superior to the rest of Africa. So there was no many blacks in Ethiopia. And that was the narrative. And the other was, the other impact of this narrative was Ethiopia was used to be the part of the Middle East until 1960 because Ethiopia was not considered part of African Bureau in the Department of State. Ethiopia was considered to be within the Middle East Department. So this was a wrong perceptions of the United States about the politics of Ethiopia. And the reason that the United States helped it to sustain the throne of Solomonic Ethiopia for a long time by providing them with the weapons without any responsibilities attached to it. And this is the reason that the United States has a wrong understanding of the policies of Ethiopian ruling regimes. In 1960s, 1970s, the Muslims were very much oppressed in the United States, in Ethiopia. But if you just go and read the document of United States on that issue, United States was very much concerned about the Muslim being propagated by Egypt, by Nasser. And no one was talking about the fact that Muslims were denied right in Ethiopia. No one is talking about the fact that the Oromos were denied the right in Ethiopia because the Oromos were agitated and they were pro-Somalians. And when the Prime Minister of Somali, Elemo, came into power to promote detente with Ethiopia, actually the reason he was selected was he was an anti-Oromo. He is from Hargeisa. If you know, he's from Isak, and his rivalries with Oromo. He was promoted. And that problem gave rise to a tribal tension in Somalia, because for the first time, Ali Sharmake from Darod and Elemo was from Isak tribe, which means the Hawiye tribe of the Somali was excluded from the power so much so that it gave to the coup d'etat of 1969, in which Ziad Barre came to power and invaded Ogaden because he was upset with detente, which United States planned for the region to promote a peace with Haile Selassie and peace with Kenya. So, to conclude, my minute is running. U.S. foreign policy on East Africa and Ethiopia was based on wrong premises, and it was actually shaped by myth and imagined realities than the objective realities of the whole. And this is one of the main challenges for Oromo struggle for equality and independence. And I think we need to fight this perception academically, because we don't have Oromo diplomats, we don't have history, we don't have glory, we lost our glory, we lost our history. And the only people who can challenge that narrative are the academicians. Unless we can just, come up with a competing narrative, a different storytelling. We don't share that genealogy with Ethiopia, we don't share that history, our history, the history of subjugation, humiliation, and marginalization. So much so that we need to just bargain, we need to just talk in Ethiopia, and the United States has to be like a moderator, facilitator, to bring, a fair game, or make like the level field equal. So that should be as a part of an objective of Oromo Struggle. And thank you very much, everybody.